how long have you been with us now?
I want to say 15 months.
Oh wow, that's a
Is
long
it 15
time.
months?
Yeah. Did you move from somewhere?
No. Well,
Yeah.
actually, I'm from here. I've been living here since 2002, off and on.
Okay.
But about 3 years ago, I moved here back here from Oregon.
Yes, yes. And you have that coffee shop in Oregon, right?
Well, I had a coffee shop once, and I
Yeah.
had a Mexican restaurant. The
Wow.
most recent one was a Mexican restaurant.
So tell me about that coffee shop. Is that something that you enjoy doing?
I loved it. It actually
Yeah.
was the one business I loved to death. I've done quite a few businesses, but that one was fun.
Okay.
It was like a legal addiction, and everybody came in a good mood, and it was a great spot to be in.
Okay. Is there any Starbucks in the area?
There were no Starbucks
Oh,
then.
okay.
They
So
came
good.
in later.
Perfect
Yeah.
timing.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. And you mentioned about you're also an avid motorcyclist. What do you?
That's right. I actually grew up motocross racing as a kid.
Wow, that's
I did
awesome.
powder puff motocross.
Okay.
And so I had a motorcycle license before I had a car license in
Okay.
California, because you could get it early.
Yes, yes.
So I've always been an avid motorcyclist, and that's about the only sport I really did.
Who inspired you to be a
A
motorcyclist?
boyfriend.
Oh.
A boyfriend.
Influencer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what type of motorcycle do you drive?
I had a Yamaha MX. Oh, but I also drove a Honda 90 on the streets in San Diego
Okay.
as a kid.
Okay.
You could drive them on the streets.
Oh, it's street legal.
Yeah, they were street legal, and they'd give you a motorcycle license before they give you an automobile license. So I just had a knack and a technique, and
Awesome.
it was good.
What's the biggest motorcycle you?
I had a BMW R. I think it was 1150. It weighed over 1,000 pounds. and
That's
I've
intense.
spent years on Ducatis.
Okay.
The most recent is a lot of Ducatis.
Okay. That's a fun bike.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. We've done some sport touring,
Yeah.
off-roading with it too, camping, things like that.
What places which places have you been that's been the best?
The best was 2 weeks we spent motorcycling Northern California through Big Sur, that whole area, and taking all the little off-roads. We'd camp every night. Everything we had on our bike was all we had.
Wow.
It was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah. It was
Highway 1 too.
Highway 1. Yeah, that's right.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was. Lots of twisties.
Yes. And then how did you learn about us as the main people?
So this is interesting. When I had my coffee house, it was only open about 4 months when I was invited on a rafting trip in the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
And while I was on the trip, I had an accident, and I crushed my right foot.
Wow.
When our raft hit a huge hole. I saw my toes hit my shin. It was that bad. And I was, oddly enough, with a medical team, and we had an orthopod there and everything. And they cast my foot and put a garbage bag over it because they couldn't get me airlifted out. I think it took almost 6 days before I was airlifted out.
Wow.
So I did all the rapids through that period of time, and they couldn't give me any medications because I had to be able to swim if I went into the water, right?
Yeah.
And so they built me crutches out of trees. I'm serious,
I-
with duct tape and foam.
I saw that in the picture. Yeah.
And you'll get to, and you've got the pictures. And I had to go home to a brand new business, which was my coffee house.
Yes.
And there were like 5 stairs to get down, and I lived in an apartment with a full staircase. And what I discovered then was I had no upper body strength. I have always taken for granted that I didn't need to exercise.
Yeah.
I could handle everything, and that was my first wake-up call.
Wow.
That I wasn't in as good a shape as I thought I was. And the consequences of that accident were that my whole arch of my right foot fused together, and so I limped. I had a chronic and continuous limp, and I limped for over 2 years, and that threw everything off. So I was 35 when that happened, and I accepted the limp as part of my life. And then my husband and I, a few years later, bought a sailboat, and we left for a long sailing odyssey. And I kept thinking, okay, I still have I'm a little stiff and sore on the right side, which was the right hip, but I can manage all this. I must be just fine. And so when we got off the sailboat, within about 3 weeks, I was literally bent over with hip pain. And initially, it was diagnosed as back pain, a back injury. And I kept saying, this isn't making sense to me. I didn't injure myself. I've been physically active. They put me on a regimen of epidurals and pain medication. And I was getting weaker and weaker, and I was getting heavier and heavier from all the medication. And I started researching a little bit more and went to another doctor, and he said, well, your hips are actually 90 years old. They both need to be replaced.
And you were how old?
52.
52. Yeah.
52. And both hips were shot. And meanwhile, I had had no physical therapy. I'd been lame for a solid 4 years, you know, pretty much off and on, could feel that. And so I went in for total hip replacement a year apart. They did the right one first, then they did the left one. But what happened was I had no physical therapy in advance, so I was very weak. And I never completely recovered. The doctor never recommended physical therapy. I didn't know any better. I was taking instructions. And when he did the total hip, of course, they cut through the glutes and everything.
Yeah.
So nothing ever recovered. And I have been living with constant and chronic pain to the point that I can't do I could not do stairways or anything without paying for it. I mean, I'd be lame, sitting, groaning constantly. Everything I did was an issue. I couldn't do long distance walking, forget a treadmill, all of that. And I was continually told, this is osteoarthritis. This is the way your life is going to be. And they pushed medication, and it got so that I was taking tramadol regularly just to move. And I just woke up one day and said, this is the rest of my life if I don't do something different. And I knew that if I went to a gym, that all I do is a treadmill. I'm not an exercise nut. I've never really exercised. And so I started investigating what I thought was going to be easy. I thought this was going to be easy. And being a natural researcher, I went and checked out 3 places and went through assessments, and you were one of them. And it was hands down, no debate after you did the assessment. None. Because everything else was like a class, like I didn't feel like I was being supervised, and I was so worried about being injured because I knew it could get worse. And I didn't know where the problem was. I just thought I'd gain more mobility. But your assessment was comprehensive, and I could tell right away you knew what you were doing. So then I started researching you.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it was
that was scary.
It was hands down completely different scene. So when I signed up, I honestly didn't expect to stay. I'll tell you the truth. I thought, I'm going to quit this like I do every single exercise regimen that's out there. But it was probably, I'm going to say, within 2 months, I think I agreed to stay. With myself, I think I agreed to stay 2 months.
Okay.
And at the end of 2 months, it was so remarkable how the pain was gone. And the pain was literally gone. No more medication, and that I had a routine. And if I booked an appointment, I wasn't going to screw up. I was going to go. And with every single appointment, there was a change. It was a shock. And so now I'm addicted, and I have muscles I was never going to have in my life. I can pick up things. I can
pick up that motorcycle.
I can pick up anything now, and I use my core, which I'd never used in my life. I've learned techniques about that, and I recently was on a trip to Puerto Vallarta.
Yes. Right.
I'm going to give you a picture too. It's not a flattering picture, but it's a really important picture, because I could never walk downstairs or upstairs without holding on to both sides. I really couldn't. I didn't have any strength. And I was carrying 2 suitcases. One I know was 30 pounds, the other was probably 20 pounds, down the stairs, 30 stairs, and up without touching anything, and it was almost effortless. I recently did on a trip to Panama, I recently did a hike at altitude of over 6,000 feet in a volcano area, over mud, streams, 4-hour hike with friends, and I had zero residual pain or stiffness, and I kept up with everybody. In fact, I was ahead of my husband on a lot of it. So, and I'm not going to.
That's awesome.
But that's incredible for me.
Yeah.
And so.
And you're still keeps getting better.
It's better every single day. It's better every single day. And I'm 65 years old, and we're getting ready to retire and do a lot more traveling. And I've been traveling in areas with cobblestones and uneven surfaces. My balance is something I haven't had since my hips. And I was actually just telling you this morning, I keep calling these little wins huge because I couldn't, after my hips, I couldn't put on shoes, I couldn't put on pants, nothing without sitting down. I had to be on a chair or on the bed because I didn't have balance. This morning I'm putting on my leggings standing straight up.
Wow.
That's
awesome.
Those are things that I never thought I was going to do again. So I think that for people my age that suddenly discover they have no strength, this is a big deal.
Yeah. What would you recommend for your friends, like in your demographics, who's going through aging and just being dysfunction?
This is very interesting because within the last 3 weeks, I've had conversations with 2 of my friends that are the same age. One is 69, one's 67. The 67-year-old, both of them are very slim, trim, have never needed to exercise in their life. The 67-year-old walks everywhere, is very strong, she thinks. All of a sudden, she discovered she couldn't get up off the floor easily, but her legs are strong. And she has never been overweight, so all of a sudden the recognition that, this is a big deal because if I fall or if I lose my balance, I can't get up. My other friend is 69 and she has an older husband who's gone to a walker. So she's busy picking up the walker and putting it in the car all the time. Once again, a really slim, trim, never exercised woman, and her favorite pastime on their trips is baths in these luxurious hotels. She loves to go take a bath. And she said to me, I got in the bathtub and oh my God, I couldn't get out.
Oh no.
She said, because I didn't have a handrail. And it was instant. She said, what am I gonna do? And so
that's an eye-opener.
This is, we take so much for granted, and if we don't have what I feel, if I don't have the core stability, I'm not going to be active for the rest of my life. I already had the experience of not being active. It isn't a pretty way to go. It isn't pretty, and it's the difference in how I feel physically every single day that makes the difference. And it's inspiring me now to do the intermittent fasting and try some different things because it's huge. It's a huge difference. It's just huge.
Would you say your mindset is different now?
Are you kidding? Look, my husband told somebody, and this is a big deal because if you knew me, you'd know that I don't stay disciplined with anything physical ever. And my husband told friends that I have approached Pilates with a religious ferocity, and he said, like, I've never seen her like this. And I would come 7 days a week.
Wow.
It's odd, I feel that way, but I would come 7 days a week. And I'm most concerned about traveling and not having access to exercises or things I can do to remain like this. And I think a lot of us are as we get out there and start the rest of our life.
I'll fly to Ahiki.
I hope so. But I am. It's because I can see that the differences are very significant.
Well, the things you're gonna learn here, you're gonna have a takeaway eventually. Then the videos.
And in the beginning, I didn't pay attention to everything. I was just glad I could do a few things. And I didn't understand breath. And I didn't understand all those things like the nuances. And now I'm being kind of a perfectionist with what I do. I'm paying attention so that I can take those with me when I leave. That's a big deal.
That'll be our training.
And I also highly recommend to people, when you're in as bad a shape as I was, that Steve should video you on your first visit.
There you go.
And then look at where you, because I have done some
before, after.
I have done some things that there is no way in the world I could have done, and I almost go home and cry over the difference, because I'm going, I can't explain it, but this is huge to me.
Yes.
You know, I didn't think I'd ever be able to do these things that you got me doing, and I couldn't. But I had kissed all that goodbye.
That's awesome. I mean, you're like a 40-year-old.
Yeah, and the other thing that was significantly different about you, and I know this is partly, you know, I wouldn't do, people who know me know I have no intention of ever saying, of ever lying or testifying for somebody that isn't doing the right thing. And you have a unique perspective about muscles, fascia, all these other things that they don't have out there. The other instructors that I talk to don't have. I'm confident every time that you ask me, do you feel it in your back? Do you feel it somewhere, that you're guarding my health? And that means that I have a lot of confidence about anything you tell me to do now.
Thank you.
I'm willing to do it. I'll do anything you ask, because this is amazing. Yeah, and I don't know where you can find that. You know, it's uniquely different.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no. So for all those old folks out there who are starting to notice we're slipping, this is the time we're supposed to be active. Become active. And if we're not in shape, then it's broken hips, it's everything else. And
that's true. So what's your dream activity?
For me, I really want to be able to hike actively and well.
Good.
And I don't think I'll ever quit Pilates.
Maybe
Wherever I go, I'm going to look for
maybe I can teach you to be an instructor. If you can instruct all the ahihik people.
I don't think I'll ever be that good. I'll never be that good, but I'll get you down there to do it. I'll get you down there to do it. Because active people, like, we're going to move to Ajijic, Mexico for a while in the next few months. And in Ajijic, there are a lot of retired expats, and they look to be a little older, like in the early 70s, mid 70s to 80s, but every one of them is walking and hiking and mobile.
They're active.
Yeah, and they're into their Pilates, they're into their tennis and their pickleball, and there's no way I would, and cobblestone streets and elevations, there's no way I'd consider moving there if I hadn't done this. Frankly, it would have been off the roster. I've been looking for flatlands. So I want to do that, and I want to do pickleball.
Okay, awesome. Okay, we'll get you there.
Yeah, I know. I want to do pickleball just for community sport.
Awesome. Yeah. But thank you so much for sharing. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're the best. Edit wherever you want.
Awesome.